I am opposed to immigration. I believe that whites have a right to self-determination in their homes. I think that anti-white discrimination and hatred exists in modern institutions and media. And I think that immigration and low birth rates are causing white populations around the world to plummet. And I think when that happens, we're going to have a lot of violence and issues, as we saw in Rhodesia and South Africa, as what will be former minorities are very anti-white in their sentiment.
All right, Nihilist?
Okay, well, I originally planned to take the regular leftist route of identifying the preservation of culture argument as a racist dog whistle, but as I listened to your interviews, it seems I don't even need to do that. Though he's too cowardly to identify himself as one directly, Petrus holds positions identical to those of a white nationalist. He has stated in interviews on this very channel such wonderful gems as, look at Hispanic countries, look at black countries. If we have the demographics of a third world country, we'll become a third world country. And he also said, I think it's better for all minorities that white people are running things. So not only does he not know what the third world actually means, Petrus straight up told us he is for white supremacy. Our friend has also stated that he would like the country to be 90% white and 10% black. Given the current demographics of this country, Petrus would allow a little over half of all American blacks to live, while the rest of the people of color, all 105 million of them, would get Thanos snapped out of existence if he was merciful. So now I'm going to pull a dirty trick and veer away from culture to talk about the real world consequences of Petrus's ideology. Even if all we did was stop immigration indefinitely, as Petrus suggests, that would lead to genocidal results. Without a supply of immigrants providing labor, the population would drop, forcing America to choose between a stalling economy or an ineffective pro-natalist program, likely with tinges of racialized eugenics. Each extra American child today adds over 9,000 tons of CO2 to a parent's carbon legacy, drastically accelerating climate change. Even at current levels of emissions, equatorial regions will become uninhabitable in a century or so. The brown and black people who occupy those regions will become climate refugees who Petrus would happily send to the mass graves. Petrus focuses on culture because he doesn't want to consider the economic and global ramifications of his worldview. Nationalism cannot be used to ignore the genocide of billions in the global south, and anybody who only cares about a country they wish to be predominantly white only cares about white people.
Whoa, okay. I guess you can open up the floor.
So when I said I wanted the country to be 90% white and 10% black, I didn't set that as a goal. I said that in an interview with BPF about what an ideal country would be like without immigration. And I said the demographics of a country, if we had never passed the 1965 Immigration Act, which I think we would have a better country right now if we had never passed that act, the Hart-Celler Act, you can Google it if you'd like. Our country would look just about how it was before mass immigration, which was 90% white and 10% black. So you're taking that out of context. And I do hold by the fact that when you bring in third world people, you end up with a third world country. Have you ever been to like Los Angeles or the south side of Chicago?
Do you know what the third world means?
I don't know the specific like lab coat definition, but I know it means shithole country.
Yeah, no, that's not what first or second or third world means. The first world refers
whatever,
to
dude.
like
You know what I
people
mean
like
by
in
that.
NATO,
You know what I mean.
in NATO and the United States. So
Okay,
by definition, the United States is the first
Nobody
world,
uses
and
the Cold World.
the second world is the USSR and like Soviet-aligned nations.
Nobody uses the
you have no
Cold
fucking
War
clue what you
definitions, dude. It's not 1916 war. That's not what that means.
All right, so we're gonna have to do maybe like. We're still going. Okay, you guys are doing a lot of talking over each other, so let's try not to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to mute you guys when you're talking, so the other one can finish. So go ahead, Nihilist.
Yeah. So what is it? Do you think that immigrants? How would immigrants destroy the country exactly?
So first of all, I think that because I am a Republican, and I think that Republican policies are good and Democratic policies are bad broadly. And immigrants vote Democrat, and I think they're going to totally ruin our country. Additionally, right, you look at these places where these immigrants come, you look at, okay, let's look at the west side of Chicago, for example, right? The west side of Chicago is filled with Mexicans. It's one of the most dangerous places in, like, America. I think Chicago is actually the world capital, or not the world capital. The world capital is, like, in, I think, Central America or something. It's, like, one of the, I think it was, like, Nicaragua or whatever. But the city of Chicago, and I don't have a source for this, I heard it somewhere, has a worse murder rate than Iraq, and that was a few years ago. And I think that during like the Iraq War, and Chicago itself, I don't know if you've ever been to the west side of Chicago, but it is terrible. During the BLM protests, there was like there were huge amounts of gang wars because the police were so overwhelmed, and the whole place was like a war zone. You can't go into half these neighborhoods because they're filled with immigrants who are constantly killing each other and ruining things. These people that are coming here, these South and Central Americans, are ruining our country, and they come here and they destroy things, and we can't allow them to come here. Additionally, immigration takes you brought up economic things. I completely reject the idea that. Sure, go ahead.
Can we address one thing at a time? How exactly does race factor into the crime problem? Because when I think of crime, I usually think of organized drug gangs causing all that violence, not like the melanin amounts.
Okay, well, where are the drug gangs? Where are they from, though? They're from Mexico.
Well, they're because of the drug war, aren't they? So if we legalized, tax, and regulated those drugs, then there wouldn't be need for illegal gangs to come shoot people up. This has nothing to do with the color of people's skin. I mean, the idea that like immigrants are causing all this crime is not like drugs. It's not borne out by like all the information that we have. Like immigrants, even illegal immigrants, are less likely to commit crimes than people who are born in the United States.
So why is it that even so you're saying it's because they're immigrants, right? So why is it that in all of these countries that these immigrants are coming from, they suck? When you look at Mexico,
yeah, that's why
Mexico is a country with giant amounts of cartels. They have all of these problems. They have a very high murder rate, right? And the Mexican immigrants pick up Mexico and they put it, 25 minutes away from downtown Chicago. And so you can see that in LA, you can see that in Chicago, you can see that in, many cities. You can see that in El Paso, you can see that in Houston. Every single one of these cities that has all of these immigrants has these huge neighborhoods where you just can't go in there because it's so dangerous.
But perhaps it's because these immigrants are going to poor places, and poor places generally have a lot of crime. What does this have to do with their race? Can you name a specific gene in the brown and black somehow like gene pool that makes them more like pre?
No, I don't have a specific gene that makes people. I don't have a gene that makes people want to start drug cartels.
Okay, so then
I think that the fact that they're doing it and the fact that they're bringing it here, regardless of any genetic issues whatsoever, the Mexican immigrants bring their third world country to the United States. This is not a I think this is going to happen. That is happening.
Stop using that term.
Dude, third world country does not have the Cold War definition of a country that is not aligned to either communism or capitalism that did 50 years ago. It now means a shithole country, okay? That is like a completely outdated term. It just does not mean that. I don't understand why you're hung up on that. When I say third world country, I'm not using the definition that was used in the 1960s. Okay, well, if you don't know what I mean, you're totally tapped out from news and media in general.
You're using means. I know that third world usually means shithole country. That's not what it means.
Yeah, that's what okay. I don't care if it has a double definition or not.
Go ahead and use shithole countries. Just say shithole countries instead.
Fine, I'll say shithole countries. Okay, whatever, dude. This is fucking semantics. You don't have an actual argument.
Okay, so yeah,
why does it matter whether or not I'm saying shithole countries or third world countries? It means the same thing.
I'd rather use like more like obviously like racist language in this debate. So what you still haven't identified any actual like reason that skin color has anything to do with the fact that these people coming from developing countries.
I don't care if it. Dude, I'm not even talking about. I'm not saying that I never claimed that Mexicans are inherently violent. We can talk about that, but what I'm saying is, that Mexican immigrants come to the United States and make it worse. I don't care. I mean, I'm not bringing up any arguments based on skin color. I'm saying Mexican immigrants and other Hispanics come to the United States and they make our cities worse. They make our country worse. They commit crimes. They vote in a way that is going to, it's bad, at least in my position, because I'm a conservative. You're a liberal. I'm sure you don't agree about that. But I oppose immigration because immigrants come here and they make our country worse. And I don't need a specific gene to say that. Do I have information? Dude, literally Google Dude, I mean, have you ever been to these places? Like,
I don't-
literally
yeah.
Google like
I
cities.
just
Okay,
called them
crime rates.
developing nations.
Hold on, you guys. Okay, because I'm gonna have to. I'm trying to mute when one person's talking because you guys keep doing this. So go ahead, Annihilus.
I just called them developing nations. Obviously, the people there are poor. They're more likely to commit crime. So when they come over here, all the information suggests that immigrants, even illegal immigrants, are less likely to commit crimes than people who are born here. Do you have any data to contradict that statement?
Yeah, let me pull something up. It's pretty obvious if you've ever been in one of these big cities, but let me pull something up for you.
And for those watching, if you guys have questions, you can send them in throughout the debate, and I'll be jotting them down. So just tag politically provoked, and we'll be taking those down. Yeah.
So yeah, so according to the FBI, Hispanics like commit like 2 times as much crime
Hispanics?
as
I'm
whites
talking
do.
about immigrants.
Petrus, Annihilus. Sorry, go.
Yeah.
Let Petrus finish.
Okay, well, where did Hispanics come from? They've come here. Most of them have come here in the last 30 years as immigrants. I mean, Hispanics were less than 10% of the population before like 1990, and now they're like a third. I mean, or maybe not a third countrywide, but in a lot of these cities, they're a third. Like, for example, I live in Chicago. Like a third of the people that I see walking around are Hispanics, and they've come from like they have obviously. Are you saying that Hispanics are not the explosion in the amount of Hispanics is not caused by immigration? What's your point here?
What? No, my point is that immigrants aren't the people who are causing these crimes. It usually seems to be the case that only in like the second or third generation after immigration does that crime rate go up in people who are originally from immigrant families. So the idea that it's like immigration causing the increase in crime is just ridiculous. It's not true. It's because of poverty and other reasons.
Let me see if you can follow my line of logic here. Hispanics from Hispanic countries, which are shitholes, right? They're all poor, they're all violent, they have shitty quality of lives, come to the United States, move into cities, right, and make it worse. I don't care if it's a racist argument or not. Can you find anything wrong with that? That Hispanics come from Hispanic countries, move to the United States, and make it worse. That's my whole argument.
No, I find something wrong with that because it's not true. Like, all the information suggests that crime rates among immigrants, both legal and illegal, are lower than the native population. Just because they're Hispanic doesn't mean that they immigrated recently. It's the people who immigrated, whose families immigrated generations ago. They're the people who are actually increasing the crime rate because they're all so fucking poor. So this has nothing to do with immigration. It has nothing to do with race. It has something to do with poverty and those systemic discriminations that occur inside our country. Do you want to move on to a topic that you know more about?
No, I don't. Okay, so first of all, how exactly is the government supposed to track the amounts of crime coming from people that they don't even know are in the United States? And also, I mean, are you saying that Hispanics aren't recent immigrants? Look at, for example, like compare them to other groups of immigrants. English, German, Irish, Jewish, whatever, Italian. All of these groups have come here over 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Hispanics have come over from a period of like how many like from a perspective of like American history as a whole, the United States has existed, or maybe not the United States, but like the modern American civilization starting from English settlers in the 1600s has existed for almost 400 years, 300, whatever, a long time, okay? And Hispanics have come here since the 1990s for the most part. In fact, Hispanics were almost completely barred from coming into the country until 1965, until after 1965. And so, you know, Hispanics are recent immigrants. And I don't care if your study is only picking up people who are not even known by the government and have come here in the last 5 years. I'm saying that Hispanics who have come here for the last 50 years or so, and were not really relevant in the population of the United States previously, are committing lots of crimes. And they're making our country worse by moving into these cities and making them shitholes, just like they are in Mexico and Guatemala and Nicaragua, etc.
Okay, so I keep like hearing you saying like the same NPC talking points over and over. I've already suggested
Oh,
that
I'm with
poverty
you.
might be.
You call me
I already
racist like 10
suggested.
times.
I already suggested that poverty might be a contributing factor, since it seems like the increase in crime comes from people who have been in the country for generations rather than people who have immediately immigrated here. So your information is just wrong. Do you want to move to a topic you know more
No,
about?
I don't. So, okay, so they've been here for multiple generations. My family has been here for 16 generations, okay? Mexicans at most have been here for 2 or 3. They're still really recent immigrants. And additionally, I mean, what does that have to do with poverty? Immigrants
Wait,
okay, so let's look at let's look at the Irish, okay? The Irish came here during mostly in the 1860s as well as the 1840s and the 1850s. The Irish today are not violent. You can look at there are no Irish crime statistics that say that the Irish are causing massive problems. If anything, it proves that Mexicans, after immigrating and becoming more fitting in with American society, are becoming even worse. And so, regardless of, I mean, that's not a point in your defense. By saying that Mexicans come here and they get more and more violent the longer that they stay, that is not in your defense.
okay, then in whose defense is it that being influenced by American culture makes people more violent? I don't know. Should we be like exporting to people to like Canada or something? Actually, you might like
No,
that
I mean,
idea.
okay, so let's look at, so American culture is primarily made up of white people, right? Because the country is majority white. So why are white people committing all these crimes if it's the cause of American culture that's making them
Wait,
violent?
I didn't say that white people were committing these crimes. In fact, I think they're not
I know that. I'm saying that
creating
you're
these
saying
crimes
that
because they're richer.
Mexicans are becoming more violent. You're saying that the Mexican Americans are becoming more violent the longer they stay here because American culture makes people violent. That doesn't make any sense. Otherwise,
No,
white people
I
would be
didn't
committing
claim that.
tons of
I was just
crimes.
saying by your logic that would be the case, but I didn't claim
That's not
that.
my logic. My logic is that Mexicans come to the United States and they commit crimes and they make our shitty cities shitholes, just like they are in
Yeah, so
Mexico. My claim
you have
has
no data to support that. All you have is that people who are Hispanic generally commit more crimes, despite the fact that immigrants coming into the
Dude,
country
I literally
don't
just brought
commit
up
as
the
many
fucking
crimes.
FBI crime statistics, dude. They commit twice as many
Yes,
crimes,
and
Hispanics.
yes, they are. Yes,
Dude, I
Hispanic
already
people do commit
disproved
more.
your point.
Wait. Hispanic people do commit more crimes. I'm not disputing that, but it's not Hispanic immigrants that commit more crimes.
Yes,
It's native
all
Hispanic.
Hispanics, or not all Hispanics, dude.
How would it
They're
in
not native. They're not native.
immigration? How would an immigration like how would stopping immigration reduce the crime rate? I'd say that decreasing poverty would decrease the crime rate, and that seems pretty. Seems pretty intuitive. If even if you know, so so again, do you want to move
No,
to a topic you know more about, like
no,
the
I don't
economic
want to move
effects?
to another. Dude,
So
Mexicans
because
are
you keep
not native. Or look, dude, Mexicans, if they've been here for 20, 30 years, are still not native. They're still the sons of immigrants, or they are immigrants themselves. And they're getting more violent the longer they stay here, probably because then the government knows about them and they can actually, like, figure out what's going on with them. And
Wait,
so,
that doesn't even make sense.
I don't,
Wait,
yes, it
so the
does.
government knows
Immigrants,
more about you and is tracking you more, therefore they commit more crimes? Wouldn't that
no,
like
the
be the
government,
opposite
okay,
case? Like
I'm not
that the
saying,
more
no,
documented that you are, the more watched you are, the less likely you are to do crimes? Like that doesn't even make
okay,
sense.
so
Like
what you're saying is that immigrants are less likely to commit crimes, and then the longer they stay here, the more crimes they commit. Okay, so I don't see how that disproves my point that Mexicans come to the U.S. and commit crimes. Okay, I don't care about whether or not, when the government barely even knows they're around, right? Because like half of the immigrants that are coming here are illegals. How exactly is the government supposed to know if you're like committing tax fraud or whatever if they don't even know if you're in the country? A lot of these crimes are not necessarily like going out and murdering people crimes. I haven't even looked in your source, but I'm sure that if like undocumented immigrants are, that's what the headline of it is. That's so retarded, dude. Undocumented immigrants are more likely to commit crimes, or are less likely to commit crimes. How is the government supposed to track any kind of information about them if they don't even know they exist?
I mean, we do have estimates of the amount of illegal immigrants in our country, right?
Yeah, estimates, dude. Estimates. You think that estimates are okay? So first of all, sources can be basically made up as much as you want, because the
Okay, so
kinds of people who create political sources are usually doing it to fund some kind of agenda. And so second of all, you take this very
Yeah,
like
with
shaky
Jews.
ground of estimates of you're basically just guessing how many Mexican, undocumented immigrants are in the United States and what they're doing. How exactly are you supposed to know anything about them?
Again, like, so you're like referring to this like weird conspiracy of like made up statistics. I mean, you're the one who started by
No, I'm saying
referencing
that this doesn't make
irrelevant
sense.
FBI statistics. Like you selectively trust or distrust like statistics based on like what fits your like agenda the best.
That's
I'm
not what
just
I'm
looking
saying.
at
I'm
the data,
saying
man.
that some completely I don't know. Okay, so the University of Wisconsin says that, which is, by the way, a liberal university, says that undocumented immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than citizens. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't make any fucking sense for the government to know anything about undocumented immigrants because they're undocumented. That's what undocumented means. And so whether or not they're filing their tax returns properly, or if they're messing up, like a lot of crimes that are committed are not like going out and killing people. They're like, you didn't file your taxes properly, you're breaking like traffic laws, you're doing a lot of these things that are not, you have an illegal business, you're selling drugs or whatever. The government, a lot of these crimes are not able to be tracked simply because they're committed by people the government doesn't even know exist. And so there's no way to have any kind of real data about undocumented immigrants that is totally, that you can't question. And also, you totally denied you said that you're saying that like I'm ignoring sources that I don't agree with. You just said, oh, the FBI crime statistics, those like aren't real, like a minute ago. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I didn't say they weren't real. I said that Hispanic people do commit more crimes.
Oh, you said they were irrelevant.
I never denied them. I said it was irrelevant because it's not just Hispanic people. It's people who are immigrants and also Hispanic. That's a completely different intersection that you have to look at. Now, okay, so I have a solution then. If we don't want a lot of undocumented immigrants, we can just make them legal. Do you have any information suggesting that documented immigrants commit more crimes as well? Because
that's
that
the thing, though, is
that
I don't care about whether or not they're undocumented or not.
Yeah,
I don't
care
them in
about
my
the crimes. Hate brown people. So do you want to talk about something you know more
I don't
about?
just hate brown people. I'm saying that Mexicans are committing crimes and they're ruining our cities, and I don't like that. And I don't give a damn if they're undocumented or not.
Up your
I do have data to suggest that, dude. Have you? I mean, I literally just brought up FBI crime statistics a second ago, which you said was irrelevant. And
yes,
additionally,
I explained how, and you just said,
no, you didn't. You just said that they were irrelevant.
Therefore,
have you ever been to like any major city? Have you? Listen, bro. Have you ever been to a city? Is it the white neighborhoods that are bad in major cities? Have you ever been to one? I mean, have you ever looked at like LA?
It's the rich neighborhoods that have less crime and the poor neighborhoods that have more crime. And it depends on like the policing.
Okay, well,
it depends on a
think about West
variety of
Virginia
factors.
For a second.
But I'm saying that race isn't intrinsically one of them.
Okay, well, let's look at West Virginia for a second. West Virginia is, I think, one of the whitest states in the union. I don't know if it is the number one. It's probably in like the top 5. If you've ever been to West Virginia, you know that. West Virginia is not a dangerous place. You can go to West Virginia and you don't have to worry about someone fucking carjacking you, okay? In the city of Chicago, right, if you go to Evanston, or not really Evanston anymore, it's been kind of gentrified in a way that is now, or I guess gentrified, a lot of minorities have moved in, it's changed. But like Lincoln Park is not the neighborhood that you're worried about in the city of Chicago. Neither is Wilmette or Lake Forest or something. The neighborhoods that you're worried about are on the south side. They're on the west side. There's one called Cicero where like more people die than in Iraq. So I think that, or I guess it's not a neighborhood, that's a suburb. It's like right next to Chicago though. So, you can look at like white states that are extremely poor, like West Virginia, and compare them to like middle-class Hispanic neighborhoods. And the people in West Virginia are completely impoverished. Like half of them are not like half of them are unemployed. That's an exaggeration, but a lot of them are. They have, if you know anything about the coal industry, you'll know that West Virginia, they don't have any jobs anymore. They're all totally broke and they're all totally miserable. And half of them are on drugs, or not half of them. That's an exaggeration again, because I know you're a source fact, so you're probably gonna bring that up. But like a lot of them are poor, and it's still a safe place. It is still safe to go to West Virginia. I just went to West Virginia a few years ago. I didn't see a single crime being committed. I saw nothing bad going on. I went to the west side of Chicago like 2 weeks ago, and I saw like 2 people fighting. Okay, so it is not, and you can look at crime statistics, and it proves that white people who are poorer are not committing as many crimes as minorities who are richer. And it is not about your wealth. I mean, it is somewhat about your wealth, but race is still a extremely influential factor in crime.
Okay, so yeah, so you provide like anecdotes and like specific cities. I can't really speak to that because, of course, they're specific cities. All you did was reference the population and the demographics of a city and their crime rate when there are a billion other factors that could be there. Like, for example, like the presence of drug-related gangs, for example. So again, you haven't actually singled out any gene or any specific information.
No, I'm not
that
going
would
to.
suggest
I don't
that
have a
people-
single gene.
Yeah,
No, dude,
because
I'm
you
not
know
going to
there
find a
isn't
gene
any.
that is going to prove that Mexicans are like going to commit crimes and like move into cities and make them worse. But I do have the evidence that shows that Mexicans, regardless of any kind of other factors, move to cities and make them worse. And so I don't really care about the genetics or the sources or whatever. I'm not a genetics expert. However, I can
have
tell
the information
that
have any information.
I'm not a genetic expert. I don't know anything about genetics. However, what I do know is that Mexicans move to cities and make them worse. That's my entire
You don't
point.
have any
And
information.
so,
Moving to the cities is what is making them worse. It's not moving to the cities that's making them worse, because immigrants have lower crime rates. It's what's in those cities that's making them worse. Perhaps you could even blame it on the Democrats. I don't care. Blame it on something. I don't know. But there's no way you could single out race as a factor when there are so many other factors you can consider.
why can't I?
This is just racism.
Mexico. Okay, so let's look at Hispanics in like LA or Chicago or wherever and compare them to Mexicans in Mexico. They're just as violent. They're just as insane. They both have drug cartels that cut people's heads off. And so, you look at white people, compare them, you can compare white people in Switzerland and white people in like Idaho, and they're both like, not cutting people's heads off. And so I don't think that, I think that race is an important part of it. I think that race, and I think that Hispanics are, I guess there is no such thing as a Hispanic race, but there are shared racial features such as, the influence of, lots of Native American ancestry and the mixture of Native American ancestry with Spanish ancestry. But Hispanics are moving to cities and making them worse. You can't deny that. You can look at the city of Chicago before 1965. You look at the city of Chicago before 1965. The West Side was filled with like Italian Americans who had, it was a wealthy part of the world. It was one of the nicest cities in the world. And then Mexicans moved into those places, and now they're like, Cicero used to be an Italian neighborhood, and Cicero was one of the most rich places in Chicago. It was one of the richest places in the world, and now it's like a total shithole. It's like Iraq. Don't you understand how that Mexicans moving in has changed that place?
I understand that in like the way like our economy has shifted toward like sectors, like the service sector has impoverished some of the inner cities and like urban flight and a lot of other factors. But let's talk about race realism for a second.
Okay, so now we're moving the goalposts. Yeah, okay.
What goalpost am I moving? What goalpost am I moving?
You changed the subject because I brought up a point. You keep avoiding my point.
Because you keep saying the same
to cities and made them worse.
You keep same rails that you've gone down the whole time. That places that
and you haven't been able to disprove that.
What I've just talked about other factors, for example, like our move to the service economy. So a city that was based on like
so how is the move to the service economy
like factories, like stuff with factories and high union jobs, those are fading away. So that might be a reason. Again, you don't have the information.
Okay, well then why haven't like white crime statistics surged too?
What? There are plenty of places.
So why isn't that like white people aren't committing crimes at the rate that Hispanics are, if it's about
because they're richer, because they're richer, they haven't experienced as much racism. There are a variety of other factors that could explain all this. And in order to find the actual explanation, and if you want to
okay, so give me an example that.
If you want to say that race is the reason for all these higher crime rates in places occupied by people of color, you have to provide this specific gene that causes people of color to be more violent. Because right now we have like people with Native American blood and people of African blood being more likely to commit crimes, which doesn't even make sense. Like Native Americans and Africans, they're like as far separated in like the genetic, like taxonomically, the farthest separated like through like blood that you could possibly get. Like we originated from
I haven't
Africa,
said
we
anything about
migrated
African
through
Americans.
Asia, and then
I have no
up
idea what the
that,
fuck you're
like, that
talking about,
placed
dude.
into
I'm not
Alaska.
talking about
And
African Americans. I'm talking about Mexican immigrants.
what you just referenced places with people of color committing a lot of crimes, and you just referenced like places full of black people and places full of people with Native American blood being more likely to commit crimes, when it doesn't even make sense when black people and Native American people aren't genetically similar at all compared to, for example, that black people and even white people. Like if you were trying to narrow down some
Okay,
gene
so
that makes
what? What
people
does that have to
more
do with
likely to be
anything?
violent, it wouldn't
I'm not
even
doing
make
that,
sense
though.
from a biological point of view. So what gene can you identify that makes people of color more violent? Or,
I do
for
not have
example,
a
you could say that
specific gene that is
maybe
going to
something.
make a people of color more violent. What I'm saying is that Mexicans, I'll make my claim really clear because you seem to not get it. You're talking about genes or something. Listen, dude,
Yeah,
what
because
I'm
you're
saying is that Hispanics moved to cities in the United States and made them worse. That's my entire point. It has nothing, I haven't brought up any kind of genetic evidence. I haven't claimed anything about genes, and yet you're fucking talking about the genetic diversity between Africans and
okay, so
like
what is
Native
making them?
Americans.
So what is making them make the country worse? I mean, I have information on the economic effects of immigration.
I mean, I think it maybe has to do with race or culture or just the fact that I don't
Yeah,
even know, dude, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why they're doing this. What matters is that they are. And wherever they
what
go,
matters
they
is
make it worse.
like them, so you're gonna blame all the racial differences in places with high or low crime onto that race because you just don't like them. Like that fact is clear. You already
That's
said
such a
that
fucking
you
bullshit thing to say.
wait. No,
So
but
you're
you already
saying you're
said that
giving a
you already
justification for
said
me
that
lying about this, but you haven't proved that I lied about it.
no, you already said that you think it's a good idea that white people are running things. You want white people to be in power. You're a white supremacist. Why don't you just say it? You're a white supremacist. It's okay.
Dude, this is not okay, dude. This is not relevant to what we're talking about. That was a completely different discussion. What I'm saying, you're totally just like bringing up other bullshit because you can't disprove my point that Mexicans have moved to cities in the United States and made them worse. That's my entire point.
I've suggested that those cities have high crime rates. I don't dispute that fact. I dispute
Yeah, well, they
the
didn't
idea
have
that
high crime rates
immigration.
before Mexicans showed up.
I dispute the idea that immigration is what is making things worse because I've cited, for example, the move to the service economy, which is like clearing out these cities and making them shitholes. That
So
could be a
how
reason.
exactly is
Maybe it's the
the
police.
how
Maybe
how
it's the drug
exactly
war.
is how exactly is the shift from manufacturing to service economy going to make Mexicans all around the world, wherever they go, violent?
What? Mexicans all around the world? What? But that's your.
Yeah. So in Mexico,
that's what you say.
in
I don't.
LA,
I'm not saying
in
that.
Chicago.
I'm not the
Yeah.
one saying.
How exactly is the shift from the manufacturing economy to the service economy going to make Chicago a more violent place, but only with minorities and not with white people? How exactly is that a thing?
I don't know. I haven't like researched this like too much, but perhaps it's the fact that Chicago used to be like a center of industry and like a bunch of factories, and when the service jobs, they can be anywhere. So you don't need to be in Chicago anymore. You can
Not
move
really.
to the suburbs.
Chicago was never really a manufacturing city, dude. Chicago was it had manufacturing, but nothing like Detroit. The Chicago had a more trade-focused economy. That's why it was built on the Chicago River. That's why the Chicago River had a canal built between it and the Illinois River, so that trade could go all the way down the St. Lawrence, through the Great Lakes, down the Illinois River, through the Mississippi, and down the Ohio, all throughout all of the oceans and lakes and rivers of the United States. As the boating economy kind of, how do I put it, like waned out, it became a more service-focused economy. There was never like a massive, for example, automotive industry like there was in Detroit. However, that doesn't really matter. Mexicans, right? Mexico has actually, let me give you a really good point, actually. So, for example, a lot of manufacturing has left the United States and gone down to Mexico because the wages are lower in Mexico and American workers are not willing to work for as much as, for as little as Mexicans are, right?
Okay, then why don't
and
you
when I'm
support
saying,
why don't you support
therefore,
the
if
$15
a
minimum wage?
Because that would make jobs go away even more. Because jobs would go away even more. You're not understanding my point. When I say that, okay, so I'll restate this so you'll understand. So when jobs in America go away, they're going away because the minimum wage is so high and American workers are not willing to go any lower for their wages, that it is less expensive for them to put their manufactories in China or Mexico or Africa or wherever. Not really in Africa.
That proves my point. So if white people aren't
no, it
willing
doesn't
to take,
actually.
Wait. If white people aren't willing to take those jobs because the wages are too low, and if raising the minimum wage to $15 would make those jobs go away, then the solution would be to get people who are willing to take those jobs to take those jobs, and that would mean immigration and importing brown people.
So yeah, but that would lower the wages of the United States. No, it doesn't, because that would lower wages.
How would that? You're taking jobs that white people are already not taking, and that will lower the wages of white people?
Okay, I'll explain it again.
That doesn't even make sense.
The minimum wage is so high in the United States that it is cheaper for manufacturers. Yes, it is so high in the United States compared to like China or Mexico that and I understand that it is not a living wage, and I'm not saying that that's a good wage to have. I'm just saying that from a company's perspective, it is better to put a manufactory in China or Mexico where they get to pay workers nothing, because you cannot pay workers in the United States the same. You can't make that as much money. The solution is to put tariffs so that it is not as profitable for companies to put jobs in China or Mexico instead of the United States. By bringing in immigrants, that lowers the wages of Americans, but it does not affect the minimum wage. In fact, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour would actually increase wages to some people, but even more jobs would leave. And this is not related to what we're talking about anyway. So I don't know what you're talking about.
So you just made like an incoherent point. So you think like we should put tariffs on companies that move outside of the U.S. to give the jobs to Mexico?
I think that why
don't we just let the Mexicans in to do our jobs in America, so we don't have to put a tariff in the first place? We can just tax them directly. That would be better for our economy. You just proved my point.
That wouldn't affect minimum wage. You're not understanding my point at all.
Wait. They're the same
minimum wage. I'll explain it again
because
you still don't understand. So jobs are leaving to Mexico because the minimum wage is so low. Manufacturing is not as profitable in the United States because the minimum wage is so high. And so what is happening is that jobs are leaving to Mexico where they can pay workers like nothing, or not literally nothing, but very little. And that's what they're doing. And so the solution is to tax goods that are produced outside of the United States that we can produce ourselves. An example of that would be like plastic or cars or whatever. You know what I mean? Those are things that we can easily produce on our own that are being produced in places like China or Mexico. And they're doing that because it's more profitable. And so you cannot bring in immigrants, which would like lower all the wages together and bring in okay, I'll explain it. Let me give you a dichotomy.
Okay,
you can either have low wages.
You
have three choices, right? You have three choices. You can either put tariffs on foreign goods, which would make it more profitable for businesses to work here, or less profitable for them to work in other places. You can attempt to raise the minimum wage, which would like eliminate lots of jobs, or you can lower the minimum wage, which would bring in lots of jobs with lower wages. If you did any of these three things, right, and that's why I support taxing foreign goods, because I think that that's how you get your cake and eat it. You cannot both raise minimum wages and bring in immigrants. Those things are mutually exclusive, because you're lowering wages and raising wages at the same time. And plus you lose.
So yeah, again, your solution is to move businesses outside of the United States and then get in a trade war and a tariff war with China.
No, that's not my solution. My solution,
and you're saying that keeping
foreign
those jobs.
My solution is to tax foreign goods so that it is less profitable for companies to bring their businesses from the United States and put them in other places like China. And so I don't see what's your problem with that. What's your problem?
That's not happening. No matter where,
because no matter how high your high taxes on foreign goods.
no matter how high your tariffs are, China and Mexico are always going to have cheaper labor. This is going to be happening no matter what. Except you're just going to go in a trade war that will hurt
They're
both
going
the
to have
economies
no, no,
of
no. They're
America
going to
and
have
China,
lower
or you're
wages.
going to hurt both the economies of America and Mexico. This is pretty well studied by economists.
So I don't care if Lacos have looked at this before.
Economists broadly agree that tariffs and trade wars are bad for both economies of the people engaging in those
Yeah, that's
wars.
because they're funded by giant multinational corporations.
Yeah, they're funded by the
Listen,
Jews. Okay.
I'll explain this really. I didn't say that they were funded by Jews. I said that they were funded by giant corporations. Listen, so if we raise taxes on foreign goods, they're called tariffs, right?
And they don't work.
Make it less profitable.
Trump had to pay out billions to the farmers because his trade war didn't work. Like that's what I'm getting at. Why don't we just keep the jobs in America and tax them directly here? It would be much better.
I'm not saying that we're going to export jobs to China. When I say that we're taxing foreign goods, it's to prevent. Listen, it is to prevent jobs from moving over to China. Okay, the only other way to prevent jobs from moving over to China is to lower the minimum wage. Those are your two options to prevent that from happening. So you can either screw over workers, or you can put taxes on foreign goods, which will hit two birds with two stones. It will give extra income to the government, and the government is broke. That will be good for them, and it will prevent jobs from moving overseas.
That does not happen. No, it does not.
It is more expensive for corporations to export.
As a
Trump
result
lost
of
jobs because of Corona. It had nothing to do with that.
No, his trade war lost jobs. He had to pay out billions of dollars to the farmers because his trade war didn't work.
That's not true, though. We lost jobs because of coronavirus, which shut down like half of them. Okay, so it has nothing to do with the trade war. What happened in the trade war was we can keep jobs with two ways. Okay, we can either make it more expensive for companies to operate in other countries and export them to the United States, or their goods to the United States, tariffs, that's what that's called, or we can lower the minimum wage, which screws over workers but keeps more jobs here because it becomes more profitable to keep them in the United States. So either we end up with starving, totally broke workers, or we have tariffs on foreign goods, which, yeah, it makes goods from overseas more expensive. But additionally, it makes people more likely to produce goods in the United States, which fixes that problem. And this is totally not relevant to what we're talking about, by the way.
Yeah, no, it is important because we have to talk about immigration and like the labor supply. So you're going to tax foreign countries and lose money in a trade war in order to keep jobs in America, but you're trying to keep immigrants out so that you'll raise the wage for those jobs by artificially keeping them from moving away from the country, and you're going to keep people from moving into the country. So you're going to raise the wage that way. But why not just raise the minimum wage? The only difference between raising the minimum wage manually and hoping like the market figures it out by itself is that you have a lower labor force providing labor and a lower population providing demand for those goods that you're creating with those jobs. You're just advocating for less people. It's just less people. That's it. Do you think less people makes the economy better?
I don't think that less people makes the economy better in all situations. However, I think that if we're going to raise wages without losing jobs, we have to listen. So if we raise the minimum wage without it being more profitable for corporations to stay in the United States than it is now, those corporations will leave. It is already deeply unprofitable for corporations to stay in the United States right now. And the reason for that, it is true. It's more profitable. It's much more profitable.
But yeah,
it is much more profitable for corporations to move to Mexico or China than it is to operate in the United States because wages are high.
It depends on the type of job.
If we artificially raise wages by raising the minimum wage, then jobs will leave and people will go broke.
Oh, but if you use tariffs and a trade war, which will hurt the economy, like I posted in the chat,
how is that going to hurt? Okay, how is that going to hurt the economy? I want you to explain.
Yeah, it makes everything more expensive, and of course, tariffs are less efficient than taxing domestically, and of course, like it decreases trade overall. It just hurts the economy. Like this is pretty well studied by economists. Like,
Yeah,
the
so
world
it
over.
just hurts the economy. That's how you're saying it hurts the economy. It just hurts the economy, right?
Wait,
Listen,
yeah, no,
dude,
I explain how.
If we have more jobs in the United States, tariffs are going to bring more jobs to the United States. That's why we do that. That's why we have tariffs.
Having more trade is a good
yes, it
thing.
is a good thing. It is not a good thing to have more. It is a good thing to have trade generally. However, what we have is harmful trade. We have a situation in which we are losing jobs overseas, which results in more unemployment and workers having less money, because if corporations for it to be more profitable for corporations to exist in the United States and to be in China, they have to lower wages. And once you get to a minimum wage, like if you have a minimum wage job like manufacturing, right, it makes a million times more sense to just put it in China and export it to consumers in the United States.
Going to lower wages by keeping jobs in America rather than like taxing them when they're overseas.
That's the thing. We don't have to lower wages if we can prevent the jobs from leaving. The issue is the jobs are leaving. They're leaving because there is no reason to not leave, because it is more profitable to operate businesses in China than it is and export the goods to the United States than it is to operate them in the United States and sell the goods to American consumers. By putting tariffs on corporations, that exist in China and export them to the United States, this will encourage them to not only come back, but prevent them from leaving, because it will no longer be more profitable to operate businesses overseas and export their goods to the United States.
Okay, so you can prevent them from leaving by doing a trade war, or you could just have more immigrants doing like. Yeah,
if we bring in more immigrants, it will lower wages, okay? And if
but
we
you don't
lower
care
the
about the wages. You don't care about the wages.
I do care about wages.
If you raise the wages, you just said that they'll leave.
Yes, we are preventing them from leaving.
So why don't we have more immigrants?
If we make it unprofitable for them to leave, then if we make it unprofitable for them to leave, right, then they will not have the option to leave anymore. And so unions will negotiate better wages with corporations, or we can lower or we can raise the minimum wage when that happens. However, because it makes more sense for corporations to leave the United States with an $8 minimum wage right now, if we raise the minimum wage, jobs will leave. However, we can fix all of these problems by taxing corporations that exist overseas and exports goods to American consumers, and it will make it harder for businesses to leave the United States and go overseas and export goods to American consumers.
Okay, so
this will raise wages.
So basically, you're providing a monetary incentive for companies to stay in the country using tariffs, but this same monetary incentive by lowering wages by letting immigrants in is suddenly bad.
Yes, it is bad because we're lowering wages. That's the problem.
Even though the effects of immigration are broadly positive, and the effects of tariffs are broadly negative.
I agree that bringing in immigrants it's different though, because immigrants, right, we would lower wages. We would lower wages. That's what would happen.
You don't care about
$8
wages.
is not a livable wage. I do care about wages.
You don't care
$8 is
about
not a
wages.
minimum wage. Bringing in immigrants would lower wages. I agree. That's true. That's bad though. We don't want to lower wages. We want to have our jobs and we want to have high wages at the same time. And we can do that by having tariffs and not many immigrants. If we have a small amount of immigrants and lots of tariffs, then we can simultaneously keep jobs in the United States and afford workers or at least the $8 minimum wage or even more.
So, yeah, again, okay, I'm trying to catch my breath here. Yeah, so again, tariffs, obviously they hurt the economy. Immigrants, they benefit the economy.
How do they hurt the economy? How do tariffs hurt the economy?
Sources here. What? I just posted a source that you're probably going to ignore.
Dude, I don't care. I want you to explain it to me. Explain it to me. I'm not going to read your source. Explain to me how your source relates to this.
So you increase the price of goods. You decrease the amount of free trade. Remember that free trade is actually good. And that hurts the economy by raising the prices of everything in the United States, hurting the consumers. This is basic
but it will raise wages, so it'll be fine.
No, it won't. No, it won't.
It will. Having more jobs
by reducing
wages because workers will be able to negotiate.
Our unemployment was like 3. that's like lower than the natural rate of unemployment. People aren't just gonna like raise their wages. That's not happening. You have to raise it manually with a $15 minimum wage.
Yes, but then
there's no other
jobs
way
will
around
leave.
it.
That's the problem. That's the
Okay,
problem.
so why
The
don't we?
jobs will leave if we do that.
Why don't we crack down on corporations leaving the country while bringing more
Yes, that's
immigration?
what I'm saying that we need to do.
While
you can
bringing
do that
in
by
more
taxing
immigration.
them for doing that. That's what I'm saying.
While bringing in more immigration.
Because then wages would drop. The point is that you have jobs and high
then
wages at the
you
same
can increase
time.
the minimum wage.
Yes, but then jobs will leave. You're not getting the point.
No, they won't, because
you have to have high wages
we just
and
put
lots of jobs at
regulations
the
on
same
them to
time.
make regulations on them to keep them from leaving, so we can win.
Okay.
We don't.
No,
we can
can't
avoid
do
the
that.
trade war. We can avoid the trade war. We can avoid depressing.
Yes,
we can
but
avoid depressing our
okay, so how
economy
exactly are you
by
going to prevent corporations from leaving the United States without putting tariffs on them? What else are we
you
going
don't
to
need
do?
to put tariffs. Tariffs don't work because the other
So
countries.
what else are we
going to
do to prevent corporations from leaving? What else are you
So
going
we
to
put
do?
other
besides
regulations
tax
and
them for doing that?
we tax. There's other ways to control these corporations. We can do it
How?
without like hurting
What else are we
international
gonna
relations
do?
with the other
Okay,
companies.
how are we going to do that other than putting tariffs on their goods that they sell to us? How are we going to do that?
We can tax people like who are trying to export like jobs to other countries. We can
Yes, that's what tariffs are.
No tariffs. A tariff is when trade occurs, you take money away, right? So when a trade occurs, you take a percentage of that money and add it to your own.
Yeah,
the federal,
basically taxes government. That taxes corporations that are foreigners and that are not necessarily foreigners. That what that does is that it makes it harder for businesses overseas to operate
trade
overseas.
with us. Yes, it makes it harder for them to trade with us.
And yes, and so the issue is what we can do. What that does is that it makes it easier for companies in the United States to succeed. And it also prevents the corporations from leaving because it becomes unprofitable for them to do so.
And puts their own tariff on us, and then both of us keep our own jobs, but then the jobs don't like go between our countries, and then trade is down. The cost of goods goes up. What? I mean, you don't think our tariffs aren't going to go like unopposed, right? Like there's an entire country that we're tariffing. You don't think they'll put their own tariffs on us? We're going to get into a trade war. We're going to
who cares? Who the fuck cares? If we have our own industries producing things for Americans, yes, I understand. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I don't care if corporations are able to export things to China. However, I do care that corporations stay in the United States so that we can have jobs here. Okay, so I think that basically
the labor pool so that we have enough people to fill all those jobs, because the unemployment rate is like 3%. We don't even have enough people to fill all those jobs, or we didn't before COVID ruined everything. So we didn't. So we just needed more people. I mean, you're suggesting a radical idea that we should have an
it's not a radical idea, dude. This is literally what the president of the United States.
You suggested in interviews that you want a permanent immigration moratorium. Our replacement
no, I don't want a
permanent
immigration moratorium. I wanted an indefinite immigration moratorium. That's different.
Okay, so yeah, so how low do you want it? Like our replacement rate right now is like 1.6.
I want no more immigrants. That's what I want.
Yeah. So you want?
No, it's less than that. It is below, for at least white people. It is below replacement.
Yeah, it's 1.6 people per women, right? 1.6 childbirths per women. So what are you gonna do about that?
I don't know. We could, encourage natalist programs like we do in Russia, or
so now you're going to now you're going to increase the population, but we could just do that by importing immigrants. Why do you need to spend?
Because immigrants are fucking committing crimes, dude.
No, they're not.
Jesus.
We already discussed all the information. So you want
Yes, we did. We did go over it.
You want to spend 18 to 20 years developing an entirely new human baby to provide labor that we could simply import someone for cheap? That makes no economic sense whatsoever. It's just because you're racist. It's not because of the crime, because we know that immigrants don't commit as much crime as
you totally just changed the subject because I totally wrecked you on the tariff thing, by the way. No.
What?
I totally did. And that's why you're changing the subject to like birth rates.
Because you don't actually know, you don't understand how free trade works. You don't understand that.
You don't though, because you didn't fucking bring up anything that made any sense. You just changed the subject.
What? No. I talked about free. You slap a tariff on the other country.
Voice
slap
crack
a tariff on you. Free trade is down. The cost of goods rises, and probably like what is that? That would cause, wouldn't that cause like inflation?
How would that cause inflation to have jobs
Again,
in the United States?
Again, like I posted sources to you in the chats. Like
Yeah,
this is
I
a very
asked you to
complex
explain.
subject.
I don't care about your sources. I want you to explain how the sources relate to your argument. Because I know you can't, because you just fucking read the headlines. Okay, so I want you to explain to me how.
I just explained to you how, and then
no,
you
no, no.
just
Explain
dismissed
to
it.
me. No, you just
So
said
I
like, wouldn't
explained
that
to you
like
how,
cause
and you
immigration? Yeah,
dismissed it,
I dismissed it because I dismissed it because you didn't explain it though. You just said free trade is good and trade restrictions are bad,
So
and then
no
you
matter
posted a source. I want you to explain how.
Okay, so yeah, if you don't understand that free trade actually decreases the prices for everyone, I don't know what I can do to explain things to you more.
So if I don't agree with you,
And
you don't know how you're gonna explain it to me. Dude, that's fucking retarded. You're retarded, dude.
No,
you're literally fucking retarded.
Okay,
yeah, you
then
are.
I can just ignore all the reasons.
You don't agree with me, so it doesn't make sense for me to explain it to you, dude. You're fucking ignore all the
reasons. Just ignore all the reasons that you give and then pretend that you didn't give any. Do you want? Is this where you want to go?
Okay, well, I did give reasons. I explained it to you exactly how tariffs will help the economy. You said free trade good.
They don't.
Trade restrictions
free
bad,
trade is
and you didn't explain how.
Yeah, generally
you didn't explain how. Explain to me how.
Guys, oh my god, you guys are so annoying.
The cost of goods goes up for people in both countries. They're going to do a counter tariff on us. Okay, we're both.
Yes, it is going to raise goods. It is going to raise the price of goods from overseas.
We're both going to be artificially keeping jobs in our countries when they could be better somewhere else, where their labor.
It's almost like they don't even hear you talking.
That job market.
I know, it's because I'm a woman, huh?
I think it is sometimes.
What's happening here?
Whoa. Listen to the lady, guys. Come on. You guys are giving her fucking hell for an hour. I'm watching the mute button. Like, this is great, but let's just not talk over each other. Okay, continue.
Okay, so you're artificially keeping jobs away from their ideal job market. You're reducing the amount of free trade between multiple countries, raising the prices for everyone, and causing inflation. There are a variety of economic problems, and this has been well studied by economists, and they broadly agree that trade wars don't usually help a country. Sometimes tariffs can be beneficial.
I'll explain to you why that is, for example. So goods, right? The overall price of goods does raise when you put tariffs on goods. However, what that means is that the goods that are produced by American companies are the same. However, the goods produced by companies overseas are higher.
Also more.
So therefore, American companies are able to compete in in the market. This means that American companies don't have an incentive to move overseas to export goods to the United States because it is no longer profitable to go to another country, develop or pay workers like nothing over there, and then sell the goods in the United States. So
so they have to pay more to American
overall.
So they have to pay more to workers over here, and that all balances out because the people over there pay less. The fact is that China and Mexico have labor pools that are much better fitted to the industries that some companies are going to export to, no matter what we do, no matter what tariffs we do.
That's the thing, though.
It is best to ride.
I don't care about fucking Mexicans, dude. I don't care about whether or not Mexicans are rich or not, okay? Or the Chinese, okay?
Because you don't
what
understand
I do care
how
about
free
is
trade
whether
works.
or not workers. Yes, I do understand how free trade works. I just reject the idea that it's good.
Trade occurs.
Okay? So listen, I think that the workers in the United States should have higher wages, and I don't care if that negatively affects the workers in Mexico.
You think like exporting goods makes your country better and importing makes it worse? Like,
He's
are you
talking
still
the whole
Yes,
time.
I do think that. Yeah, I do. I do think
so
that having goods produced by American workers is good, and having work. I think that yes, it is better for workers to have high wages, and it is bad for workers when they don't.
So funny. Keep going. You guys, we are going to start getting question to the Q&A soon because we do have another debate in an hour.
Yeah, that's fine. This guy's never going to get this. So
we're going to go on a little bit longer, but if you guys have your questions in, you got like a couple more minutes that you can send them in. After that, we will be cutting off the Q&A and only accepting super chats. So sorry I interrupted you guys, but you guys are pros at that. So all right, carry on. Nihilist.
Because they
Nope, he was muted.
He's
I'm
still
sorry.
going. My turn. My
no,
turn to interrupt. I want to interrupt now. Go ahead.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
All right, can I go now?
Yeah,
Okay,
go ahead.
yeah, so people buy things because the things that they're buying are worth more to them than the money they spend. So when trade occurs, both parties get richer. And you're trying to put tariffs to decrease the amount of trade that occurs between two countries. This is just bad overall. And you're doing that just so that you can affect where the countries you have, like which countries the businesses that exist either way are placed. This is not a good economic deal. This is not a good economic deal.
I don't care if it's a good economic deal for foreign
because
countries,
you don't understand economics. You don't understand how trade works. That's what I'm trying to do. Now,
I do understand how trade works.
You know more about. Okay, because your position is incoherent also in the labor pool like section. Like again, if your position is that lowering the amount of immigrants will increase wages, but you also think that like you should also do like a pro-natalist policy to increase the population, but then also you don't want immigrants coming in, even though they would be much cheaper to import to have basically labor immediately rather than
that's my
in
position.
18 to 20 years.
Think that, yes.
Like each student, if raised properly in America, takes millions of dollars, and as I referenced earlier in my opening statement, it contributes 9,000 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which will accelerate climate change, destroying the entire world. What do you think is going to be happening?
Okay, so what are we going to do about? Okay, dude. So first of all, if you think that, why shouldn't we just like start like killing people? You know what I mean? If you think that, why shouldn't we just start going on the streets and like gunning random people down?
What?
Also,
let's not say that though.
When did I ever suggest that?
So you think that the overall human population should go down, right?
No, I didn't say that.
Because it is affecting climate change. So why does America, for example?
I didn't say that. I said
yes, you did though.
I said for each new child born, you contribute 9,000 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. So instead of having a new child,
should we like practice eugenics or what?
No.
Well,
what do we do about that then?
That's an entirely different debate, and of course,
and
like,
and
if
one
it's
you
not
want to
racial,
have
then
too.
I could
He is pro eugenics.
I am pro eugenics, and I'm not going to run away from that. But it's much better for the environment.
Okay, yeah, me too.
Okay, so we can talk about that, I guess, later. I imagine your eugenics would be race-based, and mine would be merit-based.
I'm joking, by the way. I don't actually support eugenics.
No, I'm sure you do. Now, I suggest that importing someone from Mexico, for example, would take far less resources, and you would get labor far quicker. And the only downside, according to you, is that they're brown. Because clearly they are not.
The only downside.
Committing more crimes.
There are more downsides than they're brown. The downside is that the wages for the American worker goes down. Okay. And
okay, but
you're
you also want to increase the population by doing a pro-native.
Do you not understand? Yes, I do want to increase the population.
You're also not for the $15 minimum wage. Like your positions
I'm not.
are incoherent.
I'm not.
My position is that whatever my position is that no matter what, we should do what's good for the economy. Increasing our population by importing it from other countries reduces the population in that other country, which decreases the relative amount of carbon dioxide we're putting into the atmosphere. It balances out the labor pool because we need more workers in the United States. Mexico might be overpopulated. Maybe
we don't need more workers in the United States. That's not true.
No, our unemployment was like 3% before COVID. We were way below like the natural unemployment wage.
Yeah, I get that.
We do need more people, but what I'm saying is that people are working. And some jobs they need to stay domestically. They need to stay domestically because they're just jobs that we have to do right here, and that it won't pay enough if they're here. It won't be a living wage, so we have to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Like this is well studied by economists.
Let me explain. I'll explain this really quickly to you. So, and I've done this like 5 times now. So the goal of my agenda, right, is to have lots of jobs and high wages, right?
So now, you're going to create more jobs by reducing the population of the country.
No, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create more tariffs. I'm going to place tariffs on foreign goods, which will bring in more jobs, and I'm going to shut down immigration, which will raise wages. Do you understand?
you're going to shut down immigration, which will reduce the amount of people in the United States, which will reduce the amount of demand that we're using to feed all our population, which will decrease the amount of jobs relative to whether we just increase the population through immigration. And of course, we also have the fact that we're just balancing out the labor pool. Mexico will be rid of a few of their workers, so their economy might improve.
Dude, yeah, that's my position.
You're
just saying what I just said earlier. Yes, my position is that we need to lower the amount of immigrants and raise the amount of jobs, and we can do that by shutting down immigration.
You cannot raise the amount of jobs by lowering the demand. You cannot. You're gonna lower the.
No, I'm raising the demand. No. I'm raising the demand by making there less supply of workers. When there is less of a supply of workers, listen. So this is actually really simple. There are lots of jobs, right? In a situation where there are a lot of jobs and not many workers, unions, right, can negotiate for better wages with corporations. Okay, and what that does is that it gives a living wage to workers. Right.
Or you could just have a living wage. How about that?
No. You can't just artificially raise the minimum wage because that would make jobs leave. We have
That's not true.
We have to put tariffs on jobs from leaving, right, and shut down immigration. Immigration is flooding the job market with new people, right, and that means that wages are going down because of that. It's not creating more jobs.
Yes, it is.
All right.
Because if you have more people in the country, there's more resources it requires to feed and clothe and do all the stuff with those people, which raises aggregate demand. It also increases the amount of people in the labor pool, which increases aggregate supply. So if you're a supply side economic or a supply or a demand side economics, it's just good for the country. Additionally, immigrants raise wages.
We're going to get to the Q&A. So if you wanted to have one final thought, Petrus, but we are going to also do closing statements after the Q&A, so you guys will have it.
Yeah, I don't have a closing thought. I don't want to talk about this anymore. This is retarded.
All right, so I'm going to just jump right into the Q&A then. Let me see what the ones that I can actually pull up because they're still here. All right, so
I didn't get my closing.
We're doing closings after Q&A, guys. Okay. All right, so Natalist, why don't you see a problem with replacing Americans?
I don't care about Americans. I care about people in general. And yeah, if they immigrate, they would become Americans. So this is a non-issue.
Okay. And now from the Hammerite, can we just create economical union with Mexico, solving immigration problem and economic problem?
No, I don't want to be in the same country as Mexico.
Yeah, that's what we used to have. We used to have pretty much a revolving door where Mexican workers could come up, work for like the growing like the season, and then go back home. And we had free trade between us, and that was great. But then we cracked down, and that's why there are so many illegal immigrants here, because they can't come back to America once they leave. So yeah, it would be good to have an economical.
So we had NAFTA, right? We had a situation where Mexican workers could come to the United States and steal our jobs, right? And what happened was that wages went down because there were more workers and less jobs to fill.
Okay.
The prices went down. I mean, I don't like NAFTA.
Prices went down.
Okay, we get one answer. One answer. Come on, guys.
All right. So, no, it's fine because we have some time. But from BPF, Natalist, your plan is to essentially pump in immigrants for the purpose of lowering wages so American corporations can compete. You realize how that sounds?
I mean, immigration, if you actually look at the way that American like native workers and immigrants, they're not like completely replaceable. They tend to take different jobs. Like the amount of demand they bring and the amount of labor supply, it overall benefits the economy. And in fact, basically immigration actually raises the wages of Americans unless you're in the bottom 10% of the country. Like the only demographic that whose wages are actually hurt by immigration are like uneducated high school high school dropouts. Those people have their wages slightly cut, but those wage cuts like alleviate over 10 years. So actually immigration doesn't actually decrease the amount of wages if you look at the research behind it. It's a very complex subject, and I mean it's a debate format, and my opponent here is averse to looking at sources, so there's not too much I can do here.
I'm not averse to looking at sources. I'm just asking you to explain how they relate to what you're saying.
And I did, and then you just dismissed them. So
No, you just said source. Look at the sources, bro.
yeah, and then you just said that the Jews were controlling everything.
I didn't say that. I said corporations influence
No,
the
you
opinions of
totally
economic.
said that. You totally said that.
I didn't say anything
No,
about
you
Jews.
totally
Fucking
said
look at the
that.
tape,
No,
dude.
you
I did
totally,
not
you
say
totally
anything.
said that.
I haven't
You
said. I
totally
haven't talked
said
about
that.
Jews this
You
entire
totally
debate.
said that.
When did
You
I
said
fucking
that.
say that?
You
Look
said
at the
that
timestamp.
unicorns were.
Look at, dude. I will fucking screen share the debate. Look at when did I say that? Look at what's the fucking timestamp that I even said anything about Jews.
You said that Satan was the Mexicans. You said all of it.
I didn't say Satan was Mexicans, dude. You're fucking retarded. I did not say that Mexicans are Satan. Okay,
All right.
that is not true at all. You were lying.
No, you were referencing the flying spaghetti monster. You did everything.
What the hell does that mean? Okay, so from the Hammerite, for Petrus, World War I happened because Britain and French didn't want to share their market with Germany. I don't.
Okay.
Is that a question?
That's not really like. I mean, I think there were other motivations for World War I, such as the various alliances of Europe and the certain treaties of certain special interest groups that wanted to do different things. I mean, there were many other reasons, but I think that it is in each nation's self-interest to control economy, and I think that is relevant. And I don't think you can just view the whole world as one giant market.
Yeah,
I think it's very true.
If I could comment on that,
Yep.
like really quickly.
Yeah,
I mean,
go.
so there's the whole place where like there's the whole conversation where like you can't really decide how much you want to atomize like trade. Like, do you want to put tariffs between different states, or like how like small do you want to get it? And the other thing is with international trade, the more international free trade we have with other people, the closer our like economic ties, and of course that influences our political ties with other places. So if we want to exert soft political power or create like alliances with other nations, a great way to do that is with free trade. So there are non-economical benefits that come along with trading freely with other countries, besides the fact that free trade is just generally good.
Okay. So from Black Hammer of God, so more workers pumped into a job market increases wages in your mind.
No, it doesn't happen.
Again, this is like a very complex subject. I don't really understand exactly how it works, but the general idea is that the more people you have in your country,
Hold on.
thank you. The more people you have in your country, the more resources are needed to feed and clothe and do all and support those people, which increases aggregate demand. It increases the supply labor, which increases the amount of supply overall, increases the jobs overall, and the economy overall. And of course, more people can become business owners because there's more people to employ. So overall, yes, it does increase the economy, which does raise wages. Of course, like it
increases the economy. That's what you're saying. It increases the economy. That's a thing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
these.
I'm summarizing this because we're in the debate format in a Q&A section, but that's basically how it works. And of course, the better the economy is, the more we can tax our corporations here and get more money to redistribute to the people who are poor, and we can educate them and raise their wages. So again, this is a very complex subject, a lot of different interlocking systems, but that's basically the idea of how you might go about thinking about it.
Okay, so from Mio, a nihilist, is it even possible for you to make a single argument besides you're racist, you're a white supremacist, are you anti-Semitic?
I mean, it's possible, but I mean, again, like this is a person who literally said, I think it's better that white people are running things. So, I mean, he admitted to being a person who wants white people in power, which is the definition of white supremacy. So I think that's a fair argument to make. Again, like.
So do you think that people who, so you would rather live, so what about people who support affirmative action? Are they black supremacists because they want black people to be running things?
I don't generally like affirmative action. It's basically like.
Okay, but that's not what I asked though. Is it, I mean, whatever. I'm not going to fucking entertain, are you a white supremacist?
Yeah, and also, I mean, we do kind of want to not be attacking the person. I mean, I probably should have brought the rules up before, but I didn't think it was going to go in this direction. All right, so from Mojo, a nihilist, you said that it's bad for the environment to birth babies in America, and it'll be better to just import immigrants. So are immigrants already born adults ready to work?
I mean, yeah, that's basically the idea. I mean, people in Mexico have a higher like birth rate than people in America. So you'd actually be decreasing the amount of population in Mexico and in the world overall. So if you cared about like overpopulation, which I think is an underrated like crisis that may be emerging with climate change, decreasing the amount of carrying capacity that like the world can sustain like for the human population overall. It's just good.
Okay. So from Cal, with high unemployment because of COVID, we should increase immigration. How does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I was talking about the economy before COVID. Obviously, with COVID now, I mean, unemployment numbers are getting better. Generally, recessions tend to recover pretty quickly if the source isn't like an economic like source. If it's like an external shock, then recessions tend to recover pretty quickly. And at that point, then yeah, immigration would be good.
Okay. So from Elron Derwan, tell me why China, without having mass migration, could become a superpower and gaining influence while America is losing influence with mass migration.
I mean, if you look at like basically they're forging like economic relations with other countries, and they're using that sort of soft power, like economic power, to influence the countries with in other ways, like political ways. I can't really get more specific than that because I haven't researched it fully, but that's the general idea.
Okay. So from Fire Rises for a nihilist, why are you more worried about making money for corporations and businesses than protecting domestic workers and their cultural ways of life?
Okay, well, I'm gonna ignore the cultural way of life section first, but I mean, I care about the economy overall. Like, I oppose tariffs because they raise like prices for consumers in the U.S., which means you have to have greater wages to even pay for those products. And if you notice, that's kind of the definition of inflation. So I mean, I reject the idea that what I'm doing would like just only benefit corporations, but to the extent that it does, I'd rather benefit the economy as a whole and then tax those corporations to redistribute it than to like destroy the economy just so that the working class can like form unions a tiny bit better while our population plummets and like we have no trade relations with any other country. It seems like a bad deal to me.
Okay. And just really quick with these kind of questions, can you guys like not talk about killing yourself or like any of that stuff? Like we're trying to.
I mean, I can answer that question.
No, but no, I just want in general, like on here in the audience, like let's not do that. Okay. Let's see what else do we have here that we can pull up. All right, I can go to the ones that were written down before. All right, so from Mizgul, ask a nihilist if illegal immigrants have the right to vote illegally.
What? Nobody has a right to do anything illegally, so that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think what he means is, do illegal immigrants have a right to vote?
I mean, if they're illegal, then no, but I think we should make them legal. If they haven't committed any like serious crimes, if legal immigrants are just good for the economy. So, I mean, they pay their taxes. Like, there's no reason not to give them a say in the running of the country that they live in and contribute to. So, yeah.
Okay. So from a neo-chain, I don't even know how to say this. We need. What is the difference between law-abiding Mexicans and those who commit crimes?
One of them is committing crimes and one of them is on the law.
Okay. From We Need Critical Thinking, strengthen and enforce.
Oh, geez, this guy.
Strengthen and enforce the laws on the employers and hire illegal immigrants. Wait, sorry, I gotta fucking make this bigger. This is way too small. Okay, we strengthen and enforce the laws on the employers that hire illegal immigrants. Would that solve a lot of the problem?
I think that it would. Yeah, you can. Brittany,
can you repeat it?
Yeah, strengthen and enforce the laws on the employers that hire illegal immigrants. Would that solve a lot of the problems?
I think that if we made it, so a lot of illegal immigrants, they're not like refugees in the same way that like Syrians are. They're going to Europe or something, or Libyans or whatever. A lot of them are economic migrants, and they're coming here for jobs. And so I think that if we made it harder for them to get jobs, I think a lot of them would leave. And I think that is a good idea. That could work, definitely.
Okay. Let's see what this one is.
Can I answer it?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I think the threat of, I think like taking away jobs by like cracking down and like removing people who are occupying jobs in our economy is generally not a good thing. But I think the threat of taxation and the threat of crackdowns on companies can be a useful way of keeping jobs in America. Like this may be somewhere that where Petrus and I might agree on, but like there's an unbelievable amount like of corporations who are doing like really seedy like tax avoidance stuff like that. We could easily make a threat to all these companies that if they try to export jobs overseas, that we will crack down on their taxes and gain like get a ton of money that way. And we could do that.
You know
without
what that's called? That's called tariffs. That's called tariffs.
No, that's not a tariff.
That's
not a
tariff.
What
it's called. It's called a tariff.
No,
taxing companies to move jobs overseas. It's called a tariff.
No, you don't know what a tariff means. A tariff is when you put a tax on imports. That's what it means. You don't even know what the words you're using means. This is amazing.
That's what you would be doing, though, is you would be taxing imports from companies that move overseas. That's called a tariff.
That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting
it's like really close to a tariff, though. That's like either I feel like it's either a tariff or it's extremely close to a tariff.
I mean, I just tried to extend an olive branch here where we could tax corporations who try to.
Yeah, we do agree. You like tariffs. I like tariffs.
No, but they're not tariffs because they're not going to start a trade war when you crack down on corporations already in our country. This is not a tariff.
I'm not. Yeah,
Come on, man.
How am I cracking down on corporations already in the country by? I'm actually helping them because I'm making it easier for them to compete in the market.
I think you've lost the plot on what I was trying to say. We can move on.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, so from Otter, Sir Auden, if immigration is so beneficial economically wise, then why are we worse off than our parents and grandparents economically, wealth-wise?
Well, yeah, this is something that like white supremacists try to do, and I'm not saying you're a white supremacist.
Anything I don't like is white supremacy.
I just said I'm not saying that you are a white supremacist for asking that question. I mean, it's a legitimate concern, but basically, I mean, you just have to look at the giant corporations and the capitalists. I mean, yeah, it's the fact is that like I heard like a stat recently that like millennials are like 4 times poorer than boomers were at the same age, like something insane. Yeah, the money's all going and filtering up to the top. So yeah, it's not immigration, it's the capitalists.
Okay, so from the Hammerite for a nihilist, who will you import next when immigrants from Mexico dries out?
Man, the Mexicans, they breed like rabbits. I'm just kidding. But I don't. I'm not importing people.
It's true though.
I'm not importing people like intentionally. They just, if they want to come here for better economic prospects, they can come here. I don't care who comes here. It's just immigration is broadly good for the economy. That's all I care.
Okay. So from Colombia, how are you a socialist when you support the natural flow of capitalism in regards to the expansion and degradation of national boundaries?
What? Support the natural flow in regards to the expansion and degradation? I think national borders are, I mean, economically, they don't really mean anything. I mean, just it's like trade between states or trade between countries. Like, what difference is there? It's just trade. I mean, again,
there is a difference though, because
it's just workers.
Okay.
I mean, I care about the workers of the world. So yeah, I don't care about like American workers or like, you know, I just care about workers in the world.
Okay. So from Migazy, ask a nihilist if using technology, computers, phones is white cultural appropriation.
I am very pro cultural appropriation. I don't think any like element of culture belongs exclusively to one race or another. So yeah, if you're a white person wearing dreadlocks, you look terrible, but I respect your right to do it. I don't care.
Okay, I'm not sure if we asked this one. Did we ask from
I agree. Dreadlocks on white people looks really bad.
I don't.
Not because it's a cultural appropriation, just because it's ugly and smelly and gross.
Okay, anyways. But yeah, so I don't remember if we asked this one, but why do you shill for megacorps and parrot narratives that are endorsed and promoted by megacorps? I don't think we asked that one.
I mean, it seems to be the case that even megacorps and socialists can agree on some things at some times. I mean, Hitler drank water. So like, I mean, I with the money that mega corporations gain, I'd like to tax it and give it to like the poor people and give like tax relief to the small businesses so that they don't have to compete necessarily. They can compete better with the mega corporations. So at some points we agree and in some points we disagree, like everything.
So you're a pro megacorp socialist.
I want to tax the megacorps, but if there are no megacorps left, then there's nobody to tax. So so
that's
long
not
as
what
we
socialism
live,
is.
Wait.
So.
So long as we live under capitalism, I would like to take advantage of the mechanisms you can use capitalism to gain extra funding for the people that I really care about. But yes, eventually I would like to destroy capitalism and replace it with socialism.
So your agenda happens to be the exact same agenda that mega corporations push.
I just explained to you the ways that it doesn't align perfectly or even closely.
It does
have
actually.
Like earwax in your ears?
No, I don't have earwax in my ears. So mega corporations push, right? They donate to political organizations.
I want to get money out of politics.
The same things that you're saying. Here's an example. In the 1980s, right, California accepted a huge amount of immigrants because mega corporations donated to the Republican Party in an attempt to change their agenda, which worked. So that they support legal immigration. This was not in the Republicans' interest because now California is blue because Mexican immigrants vote Democrat broadly.
Yeah, so your partisan hack. I don't care who supports what. I care about what is the right policy. So yes,
I'm just saying that mega corporations and you line up perfectly, and you're a socialist.
And people and CEOs also drink water. I don't care. I'm okay with CEOs drinking water.
I feel like that's a little bit more significant than CEOs drinking water.
Yeah,
you are a socialist. You are anti-mega corporation. You are pushing the agenda of mega corporations.
Which is in important ways. For example, through immigration, we might benefit corporations by making it harder for small businesses to compete, but we would tax those corporations and give tax breaks to those small businesses or relief to those small businesses so that they can indeed and compete at an even level.
What I'm saying is that your agenda and the agenda of mega corporations, which you want to destroy, is the exact same thing. And you are advocating in the interest of mega corporations right now.
Yes, and you want the country to be 90% white and 10% black. I can
That's
call
not
you a
what
Nazi.
I said, though. That's not what I said.
I can call you a Nazi.
What I said was
the Nazis wanted their country to be white.
Guys, we're going to move on to the next question.
We can find superficial similarities all day.
That's not.
Okay, so we're.
And I do believe you're a Nazi, by the way.
Stop it, denialists. Okay, so from Cal.
I believe you're.
Nope.
Never mind. I'm not going to.
All right, so from Cal. How do tariffs affect America if we are manufacturing and are the biggest consumer?
Well, I mean,
so I think that it does affect America because, China, we're not the biggest manufacturers. China is the biggest manufacturer. If you look at any good, right, most plastic goods, for example, are, say, made in China on them. Our cars, they're produced in Europe, they're produced in Japan, they're produced in China, they're produced in Mexico, they're produced all around the world, but not America. When was the last time, and in the words of Donald Trump, when was the last time you saw a Chevrolet in Tokyo? It doesn't happen, folks. It doesn't happen.
Okay. So
wait, can I answer?
Yeah.
So tariffs affect America because no matter who is doing the tariffs, you're depressing free trade. I mean, these are points that I've run across already, but yeah, you're depressing free trade in both directions. You're going to get slapped with a counter tariff, bad all around. And of course, you don't get to express your control over them economically or politically because you've just shut down communications with the other country.
Is my internet shot? Okay, there, I think it's back. All right, so from Mio, Petrus argued that Hispanics are increasing crime. You admitted it. Who cares if it's native-born Hispanics or immigrant Hispanics? Why not stop bringing in more?
I admit that Hispanic people are committing crimes, but I don't agree that immigration is what is increasing that crime. I think it's poverty.
Yeah, but Hispanics wouldn't be here if it weren't for immigration.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, and if they weren't there, we would have a very low population, and we would have a much worse economy. And the capitalists would still be in power. They would still be redistributing the wealth toward the top, toward the 0.000 whatever 1%, and we would still have a lot of crime just from white people.
Yeah, well, we would have less crime and things would be better.
because we would have less people.
I'm not saying that ending immigration will create your communist paradise. What I'm saying is that it's bad. And whether or not it creates a communist paradise by disrooting the capitalist class and preventing them from redistributing the wealth to the 0.01%, doesn't fucking matter. It's still bad. And additionally, Hispanics got here by immigrating over the last 30 years. If we had never passed the Hart-Celler 1965 Immigration Act, none of these problems would exist right now.
Yeah,
They're not, the capitalist ones, but the crime ones among Hispanics.
If we didn't immigrate to America, then we'd still have a country full of Native Americans. Do you want that?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying.
How far do you want to move it back? Oh, it only moves back.
I want to move it back
to I'm moving it back to 1965.
I'm moving it back to 1965 because I do not like the fact that Hispanics have come here and fucked up a ton of things.
So you want to
That's my point. I am not anti all immigration in every scenario. I'm saying that Hispanic immigrants have come to the United States and made things worse.
You're okay with immigration as long as it benefits the amount, as long as it increases the amount of white people in the country.
No, I am opposed to immigration insofar as it's bad for us. There are situations where it was good for us.
Yeah,
it was good when English settlers came to the United States and created the United States. It was good when Scottish and Ulsterite immigrants came to settle the South and created giant plantations and economic centers and enormous cities where there was nothing. It was a good thing when Italian migrants came over, or maybe, I don't know. I have mixed feelings towards the early 20th century immigration. That kind of messed up the economy a little bit. But I think that it was a good thing when it was a good thing when German immigrants came over in the second half of the 1700s and settled Pennsylvania, Delaware, and the Midwest, where there were no people there, or there were Native Americans. And they conquered that land for the United States by settling it. So yeah, I think that there were places in which, for example, in California, there are Asian immigrants, and they're not causing problems. I think there are situations where immigrants can be good. However, Hispanic immigrants right now are not good. They're not making things better. My position on immigration is, if it's good for us, that's fine. If it becomes a problem, it has to stop. And that's why I want it to stop, because it's a problem.
Okay, so from Neon Nor, and thank you for the super chat. That's not superficial. You are in alignment with megacorps on essential issues. So I'm guessing that's probably to a nihilist, but I'm not entirely sure.
I was unmuted. Yeah. The problem there is, like, Petrus defines us as white people. So yeah, of course it was good for the white people to immigrate to America and wipe out the millions of Native Americans already living here. Of course it was good to have the plantations there, which enslaved black people.
We're not talking about that. That's not what the fucking super chat was about, dude. Super chat's about your alignment, your convenient alignment with megacorps on essential issues. I can read it to you if you can't read. It says, that's not superficial. You are in alignment with the megacorps with megacorps on essential issues. That's what you need to respond to.
I mean, again, I can also say that Petrus is in alignment with Nazis on the essential issue that white people should be controlling the country. Yes, it's an essential issue. I don't care.
Okay, well, my whole ideology is not about the destruction of Nazis. Your entire ideology is based around ending the mega corporations which currently control society. My ideology is not about that. I mean, I agree that might be a good thing, but the central core of your ideology, socialism, is about ending mega corporations, and yet you agree with them on this very important issue.
I don't base my opinions around my ideology. I label myself
based
on what my opinions already are. I label myself based on what my opinions already are.
That's what an ideology is, though. That's what that's what an ideology means.
So you just admitted that you're dogmatic.
No, what I'm saying is that I picked my ideology based on my beliefs. What I'm saying is that you have a fundamental contradiction, and that you are a socialist, and yet you push one of the most important issues of American politics, and you push what is directly in the benefit of mega corporations, which you define yourself as a socialist and struggle against.
Yes, I'm a socialist, and I'm also pro people, and I'm also pro the economy being good. This is not nearly the contradiction that you think it is.
All right, moving on. From Low End Theory, ask Petrus why he supports lowering the living standards of American citizens. Okay.
I don't support that.
Okay. So from Bob Marley, number 1, what does Petrus say to an analysis by Moody's saying that 300K jobs were lost due to the Trump tariffs?
So I already talked about this earlier in the stream. I said that this was due to coronavirus. Trump's presidency, right? Trump was president from 2017 to 2020, right? And like January of 2021, most of them. So that's the thing is that Trump was president during the worst economic crisis, which he had no hand in, right? Or very little hand in. He did not create coronavirus. Coronavirus came from China, and he shut down the economy and everything to try to prevent it from happening. And then he tried to do the right thing by opening things up after the major effects of coronavirus are gone. And so Trump did the right thing about corona, and yet still shut down a lot of jobs. When you shut down and lock down the entire country, jobs will be lost. That's an unfortunate reality. But a giant economic crisis that was out of Trump's hands happened while he was president. And so, yeah, that's why 300,000 jobs were lost. In the early periods of Trump's presidency, more jobs were coming in, wages were getting higher, unemployment was going down. And when corona happened, we had the best economy we've had in decades. And now we have a shitty economy because of COVID. I mean, it's not that hard to understand.
Can I respond?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm just reading a study from a report by the Brookings Institute, and it says that the tariffs forced American companies to accept lower profit margins, cut wages and jobs for U.S. workers. Basically, the way this works is that a tariff doesn't just tax like money from jobs.
How would an American corporation? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Wait, I was in the middle of explaining.
I was in the middle of explaining.
I was in the middle of explaining.
Go ahead. Fine.
Okay, so you're not, when you put a tariff on someone, you're not just taxing the jobs overseas, right? You're taxing, for example, you're not just doing, I said you're not just doing that. You're taxing the supply chains, right? For example, an American company might import, like, for example, supplies so that they can manufacture stuff over here. So you're increasing the price of consumer goods overseas, and you're increasing the price of supplies, like raw supplies overseas. So when they're imported here, they're more expensive, which cuts the profit margin, which actually decreases the amount you're able to pay your workers because you have a lower profit margin. And that way, tariffs can actually decrease. Tariffs.
Okay. Look, she's not here, motherfucker. Look, she's not here right now, so I gotta break it down to you, motherfuckers. Y'all are talking over too much. Anyway, go ahead, continue. One answer, and I'll bring up the next question. See, the babysitter's gone. Daddy's gonna have to spank your asses. Go ahead, man. Continue.
I love
Act
spanking.
like fucking. I'm sure you do, Nihilist. I didn't mean it like a fucking weirdo, like you're doing. Stop making everything fucking weird too. Anyway, but I think she's coming back. Anyway, continue your question. We're doing one fucking response too. All right, one response, one answer. Continue. Go.
Yeah, so basically, if the supply chains are interrupted by tariffs, then it'll cost more for American companies to import raw materials, which will lower the profit margin, which actually hurts the economy and it hurts the workers here. So yes, it actually makes perfect sense that 300,000 jobs would be lost. And of course, it makes sense that Americans would end up having to pay the price for the tariffs instead of the people we intended to pay the price, which was China.
I mean, yeah, I understand it does make it slightly more expensive, and it does make things a little bit more expensive to operate when we have tariffs. However, it actually helps American corporations because it allows them to be in the market with Chinese corporations. There are, 300 million Americans, somewhere in between those two numbers. I know it's like maybe 325, 350. That's like a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of Americans there are. The amount of jobs that have been brought back because of the tariffs on China are much larger. And additionally, Corona happened. I mean, Corona, think about how bad Corona is.
Yeah, do you have a source?
Corona,
do you have a source on the amount of jobs
is bad?
Wait. Do you have a source on the amount of jobs brought back? Because
remember the
this
conversation we had.
This is a huge problem. I'm posting sources in the chat, and the chat actually, like the people watching can't see the sources.
I'll explain exactly what my logic is. So the jobs, in order for it to be 300,000 jobs lost, right? Think about how bad Corona is. That means that because of how bad Corona is, for 300,000 jobs to be lost, that means many jobs were brought back due to the tariffs, because otherwise Corona would have created a
this was
deficit
before
in the job
Corona.
market that it was much bigger. No,
was
it's not
before
before Corona.
Corona.
It's a summary of Donald Trump's presidency.
No, it's not a summary of Donald Trump's presidency. It's a summary on the trade war
Yes, it
and the
is.
trade war only. We're talking about the trade war, what the trade war did.
How are you supposed to figure out? How are you supposed to figure out if it was due to the tariffs or due to Corona?
Because we're looking at what happened before COVID happened. Do you understand the concept of time?
I do understand the concept of time.
Because you're not reading. You're not reading the studies I'm linking.
Shut up. We're moving on. Sorry, we had like a quick power outage, so everything had to restart, and I lost my spot on a lot of these things. So I'm gonna, you guys are gonna have to go with me a little bit here. So from low end theory to Petrus, why do no economists that Trump's tariffs helped us in any way?
I don't know what that means. It's broken.
Why do no economists that Trump's tariffs helped us in any? I don't know what he's trying to say.
Yeah, no
maybe
economist
you should learn English before you ask me questions, okay?
Yeah, no economist said that. Yeah, I think it meant no economist said that Trump's tariffs helped, which is true.
Okay. So from Otter Sirrodin, and I don't know if I'm going to end up repeating some of these because everything got completely lost thanks to that. I'm a little annoyed. So from Otter Sirrodin, as a German, I don't see any American cars on our streets, but I'm sure you guys are seeing lots of German cars on your streets every day. Why are you against protection tariffs?
Very true. I see more German cars than I do American cars, actually.
I think I've explained this pretty clearly, but again, like sometimes like the way our economy works is just some markets are better suited to produce cars, and some markets are better suited to produce like service sector jobs. It's just how the economy works. Just let jobs go where they should go. Free trade.
Okay. So from Cal, why does the left keep using the argument that we took over native lands when natives were taking over other natives and their lands way before we came? It was the norm.
Both bad. All bad. They were all bad.
Okay. Let me see if I can find some of these other ones. God, I'm so annoyed about that power outage.
Are we done taking in questions, by the way?
I mean, if you guys have if you guys have a couple, that's okay. But we are going to be wrapping this up soon because we do have another debate coming up. But let's see here from Bob Marley 1. Why does Petrus use COVID as an excuse for the job losses when the analysis was done pre-COVID?
I'm not familiar with the source, but I know that tariffs are good for jobs, and it must have been some other thing. I mean, there were still many jobs leaving. The tariffs, in reality, only slowed down the amounts of jobs that are leaving. We need more tariffs than Trump ever put on the economy. Otherwise, jobs will continue to leave. All Trump's tariffs did was slow it down, which is a good thing. It slowed it down a lot. But jobs are still leaving because we don't have enough tariffs.
Okay. Let me see if I could get some of the ones that I had up here. All right. So from Ivan Popovic for Petrus, stop immigration, put tariffs on, raise minimum wage. It's not that, okay, it's not a question. From Unrelated Coma to Annihilus, is there a reason you're not taking part in White Boy Summer? Moving on.
I love white boys.
From LOL, how old is Petrus, and why do you think the Pope is the Antichrist?
I don't want to dox any of my personal info.
That's fine.
I'm
Okay.
a Zoomer. I'll say that.
Okay.
I'm not that old. I'm still pretty young.
Yeah, well, you don't sound old.
And I don't think that the Pope is the Antichrist. That's like an ironic meme. However, I am not a fan of the current Pope.
Okay. All right. So I guess we can go into closing statements and final thoughts, if you want. So, Petrus, why don't you go first?
Yeah. So this debate got kind of off topic. I guess it kind of became an economics debate. However, I think that tariffs are good. I think that ending immigration is good, and I think that those two things combined will help the American economy and do better for the American worker. I think that I think that Annihilus and I have very different points of view, in that he views the world as a giant market, and I view the world as my agenda is not how do we help the entire world get better, because in reality we can't really do that. My position is that what can we do to help the American worker? I have an America first position. A nihilist position, as he admitted, because he views the entire world as a market, is not America first. I am the America first person on the stage right now.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so let me just run down. I mean,
And
basically
please don't like none of the Nazi stuff. No more attacks.
I mean, I'm just doing like bad faith responses to bad faith bad faith accusations in the first place, so it's just tit for tat. So basically, Petrus's ideas, they basically completely ignore the rest of the world as if it suddenly just doesn't exist. He's the type of person who would just ignore climate change, let all the climate refugees inevitable in the coming years just die at our border because he doesn't care about anything except our country, and he defines our country in terms of the population, which he wants to be overwhelmingly white. I don't know how you could call him anything other than a white nationalist and a white supremacist. And of course, besides internationalism, I think he claims to support the worker when he doesn't actually want a $15 minimum wage. Whether he wants the population to increase or decrease, or whether he wants wages to grow or not grow, fluctuates depending on which people you're talking about and which people he thinks that will benefit. My position has been the same this entire time. Whatever will be good for the world economy, whatever will be good for American economy, and whatever will be good for the people that the countries that we're directly dealing with here, is the best position, regardless of whether it hurts like one group in some small way. I don't care. I only care about the economy as a whole, so that we can take advantage of that growing economy and use it to the benefit of the people overall later on.
Okay. Well, thank you guys both for coming on. Wasn't thrilled with the insults and the interruption, but it's fine. So yeah, no, it was a lot more fiery than I was expecting this debate to be. But yeah, thank you guys both. We have another debate that's going to be on in about 10 minutes. So I'm not sure if we should start new. How do you think this thing? And my internet's fucking up.
You're cutting out. Yeah. Do whatever.
So annoying.
I got you.
Okay. Well, my internet's cutting out. I can't fucking. Can you hear me now?
I got you.
Yeah. Hey.
Oh, this is so annoying, you guys. Okay, so I guess we can like talk to chat for 10 minutes. I don't know if you guys want to take off or if you want to stick around until our next debate. It's up to you.
Yeah,
But,
I have a question.
Or sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Is there a way to like put the sources that we link in chat onto the screen just so that we can know when the other person is ignoring them? Because I've posted like 5 or 6 sources in the chat, and he basically ignored all of them and just said it was COVID.
Explain what they mean and how they are relevant to the
and then you just said it was COVID. I explained how it worked, and then you said no, that was because of COVID, even though the article specifically says it wasn't for COVID.
Take a breath. Yo, hold on. And what the chat did was the chat called us, right? The chat said, hey, this wasn't during COVID. So everybody's watching, bro. So if you share, like, I can get all the private stuff, man. We're getting it. We see it. And if he refuses to read it, the chat knows what's going on, man. So you don't need to be vindicated. You know, the chat, somebody vindicated you in the chat.
The chat doesn't know like which sources I'm citing. So could
so then
put it up on the screen or something?
Correct. They cited the same ones you did. So now it's just an ego thing. So the same ones, the Moody's, everything you cited.
Annalise, why don't you go into the chat and you can post your links into the YouTube chat.
And then everybody will know what you posted.
Oh, do I just enter like the YouTube chat?
Just go onto our YouTube. Just go onto our YouTube and in the chat.